Let's see the types of polymorphism. So polymorphism is or can be implemented through the concept called static binding or the compile time binding, and the specific technique to implement the static binding or compile time binding is known as the method overloading. Another way to implement the polymorphism is the dynamic binding or runtime binding, or it is also known as the dynamic method dispatch, right? That can be implemented with the concept of overriding. Okay, so let's see both of the concept one by one. Okay, so first I am going to explain you about the method overloading. Okay, so let's go back to our example. So if you see our example, here we have already seen the method overloading. So guys, whenever you are having the methods with the same name but different parameters or the arguments, then you can say that the methods are overloaded. Okay, so this is the best example of the method overloading, right? Let me write one more method. Okay, just to demonstrate the method overloading. So here I'm going to use one more implementation. I'm going to do one more implementation of calculate EMI. Now suppose that you want to give the flexibility to, along with the tenure, you want to provide the flexibility for the interest rate also, right? So it would be like this, that the calculate EMI method would be accepting two arguments over here. Okay, so here let me write interest rate. Okay, and let me have the implementation over here. Let me copy these two things because I require both of them over here. Okay, so tenure and this dot interest rate is equal to interest rate. Now here that the EMI would be calculated based on the updated tenure as well as the interest rate, and here I can return EMI. Okay, I can have one more implementation. Let me copy this and let me paste it over here. Okay, and suppose that rather than having fixed amount of 5 lakh, suppose if I want to have the amount variable amount, right? So the type of amount is double, so I'm taking amount over here, and let me update the instance variable amount, that is this dot amount is equal to amount, like this. Okay, so guys, here you should see that we have created total 4 methods. All the 4 methods are having the same name but different arguments. Okay, so this is the example of the method overloading, right? So what is the definition of the method overloading? So the method would be having the same name and having a different argument, then you can say it is a method overloading. Okay, now let me go to the our main class which we have over here. Yeah, this one. Okay, and here in this class what I'm going to do, let me create the object of SBI. Okay, so SBI is equal to new SBI. Okay, and suppose if you want to calculate the EMI. Okay, right? So what I can do, I can call a method that is SBI dot calculate EMI. Suppose if I want to calculate the EMI based on the default values, I should call this method. Okay, if I want to call the EMI to just change the tenure, then I should call this method, that is tenure. Let's say the tenure is 36 months. Okay, suppose if I want to call the EMI for the tenure as well as the interest rate, let's say that the tenure 36 and interest rate, let's say 0.11, 0.11, like this. Okay, the third one, sorry, this should be ended with f, then it is going to work because we have declared that as a float variable. Okay, and the another method which we have, that is SBI dot calculate EMI with all the three arguments. Let's say 36 month, 0.11 interest rate, and the amount, let's say 3 lakhs. Okay, so here you can see this is the overloaded version of calculate EMI method, and this is how we can call. Okay, right? So here, let's say that we have the EMI variable over here, EMI. Okay, and let's get the value over here, that is EMI is equal to this. Okay, and let's print the value. So as out your EMI is. Okay, and here this should be EMI. Okay, the same thing we are going to, sorry, yeah, the same thing that we are going to do for all here also, and this would be EMI is equal to, here also, yeah. So we are done with our program. Let's try to run the program and let's see the output. So here you can see these are the EMIs. Okay, so like here in the first case, the EMI is 67,199. Okay, this another one, this would be, that is for the 36 month, right? That is the 67,199, right? Then we have EMI of 61,050 rupees, and finally we have EMI of the 36,630. Okay, so this is what we have over here, right? So this is the example of the method overloading. Okay, now let's see what are the rules of the methods overloading. Okay, so there are some rules that overloaded method must change the argument list, right? So that is what we have in our example. If you see this SBI Java, right, you can see that there are different number of arguments in the overloaded methods. Okay, another one is that overloaded method can change the return type. Yeah, so here suppose instead of double, if you want, then you can have another return type. Okay, so like here suppose let me specify the argument that is integer. Yeah, that's possible. Okay, but here only the one thing that I have to do here, that I need to cast this into integer, and then it is going to work. Okay, so int emi, this is how I have cast it, right? So here you can see both are having the same method name but different return type. This is also known as the overloading. Okay, then overloaded methods can change the access modifier. Okay, so suppose here if you have the access modifier that is public, okay, here you can have the another access modifier, let's say protected. Okay, these are the access modifier, so that is also possible, right? So I can't have the private over here. If I will give the private over here, then what may happen, that here in the main I would be having the error that this method would not be accessible outside the class. Okay, so that's why I have taken the example of the protected. Okay, yeah. Another one is the overloaded method can declare a new or broader checked exception. Okay, this point I will come later on. A method can be overloaded in the same type or in the subtype. Okay, so suppose it is possible that, like, let's take the example. Let's create the class called bank. Okay, now every bank calculates the EMI, right? So here also in this class also, that I can have the same similar method that returns the double argument, double calculate EMI. Okay, right? This can also calculate the EMI and it can return the answer of the same equation. That is also possible. Okay, and let me declare all those variables inside that also. So I'm just copying all this instance variable over here. Okay, right, this is what I can we can do with the another class called back. Okay, now we are trying to understand this last point. The method can be overloaded in the same type or in a subtype. Here I'm going to make this bank as a super type and the SBI as a subtype. So here just I'm going to use the keyword that is extend bank. Okay, so now here you can see that there would be total 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 overloaded version of the calculate EMI. And obviously this is not the the actual overloaded version. This is something else. Okay, why this is something else? Because here if you see the argument over here, that is 0. In SBI also it is 0. So this is not the overloading. Okay, it is different. It is known as the overriding. Okay, that I will come to later on. But right now what I can do, that here I can provide let's say I can provide only one argument, that is interest rate. Okay, so let me provide that argument, float interest rate. Okay, so now this is another overloaded version other than this. Now you cannot find that the method argument with only interest rate. Okay, so now you can see that altogether you are having total 5 overloaded version of the calculate EMI. Okay, so that is the meaning of the last point. There is a method can be overloaded in the same type or in a subtype. That overloading is also possible across the classes, but those classes must have a relationship of the child class and parent class. Okay, or parent and child class. Okay.